What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Swag Magician Media, where if you have music, what else do you really need? Today, I'm going to be bringing you my top 10 mid-year albums for 2015. I did do a top 10 albums of all of 2014 last year, so if you want to check that out, link is in the box at the bottom. Go ahead and click that, leave a like, leave a comment. Before we get to this, I just want to say I'm going to be bringing back this channel. I'm going to be bringing it back on a more consistent basis. Other than, your sporadic reviews and just overall rants like I did with the Hobson video, I want to bring more consistent series to the channel and hopefully make them more high quality and unique. So first off, obviously, we're going to be having, I'm going to continue my CD collection series, and I'm going to be doing that probably on a bi-weekly or weekly basis. And then also I want to put a weekly kind of roundup series that I will go more in depth to in the future when I do bring it out, but look forward to it. I'm going to be reviving this channel. I'm going to get it popping, and it's going to be a real good time, so stay tuned. Alright guys, so let's just get into the list. We're going to start out with my number 10 album. Now this list was not easy to put together. There's a lot of great albums on here, and some of them aren't so great, but I think really as a whole, these are the albums that have really stuck with me the most that I've listened to so far. So starting with number 10, we have Mount Eerie's Sauna. This is a moody drone, kind of post-rock influenced noise album, I guess you could say. I really like the instrumentation that's put behind this. It's really dense. You see a lot of different instruments put into it, from acoustic and electric guitars to a lot of different drum patterns, both, I think, studio drums and electronically created drums. There's a lot of electronic noises put in here altogether that really help build that drone atmosphere that you're used to. There's even a fucking, like, xylophone or some shit on the song, something. So there's a lot of stuff going on here in the instrumentation that makes it really an interesting experience. You combine this instrumentation with super poetic and purposeful, beautifully crafted lyrics that are spread out through this thing and are really an interesting read. I also like the way that the vocals are done, both by the male singer and by the use of the female singer that you see sporadically throughout this album. Like on the song Dragons, I feel like she really fits the tone well. She's soft, she's delicate, and she's melodic, and it just really fits the kind of pacing of these songs that you see where these vocals are used. Overall, I feel like this project really crafts songs that are unique and really makes sure that it all is cohesive and creates something that is memorable and completely immersive. This is one of those albums that I didn't expect to like, and I'm glad I listened to it, and just once I sit down and listen to it, it's an album that I can play all the way through, and I can just really get into reading the lyrics and listening to the instrumentation and just taking it all in and enjoying it. So number 10, Sauna by Mount Eerie. Number 9, Algiers. I may be pronouncing that incorrectly, but fuck it. Their self-titled debut project. This is one of the most unique and fresh experiences I've had in the post-punk genre in probably the last decade. This album blends so many different genres sounds, ranging from post-punk, industrial, gospel, even a little bit of electronic, and even a little bit of folk, like rock. And then, of course, there's definitely a huge alternative rock influence here. You kind of see a resemblance with this band to, at some points, Muse or an Incubus or something along those lines. However, I think the genres all really blend together perfectly, and it really creates a sound that really sticks with you when you listen to it. For me, it really took multiple listens to take in all of the different sounds and understand the direction that this album was going in. However, once I got it, it sticked with me, and I cannot forget the experience that I had just really understanding it all when I first got it. Also, the vocals here are not to be forgotten. They definitely bring something to the table, especially in the way that they're placed within the song structure. I feel like the album really paces itself well. While the lyrics at times are, for the most part, minimalist to help fit the pacing, they're definitely topical as well and are worth looking into. It just really combines with the overall direction of each song to create its own little project. And I think that the way that they blend this together is super interesting, and again, it all kind of builds on itself. You see a lot of times the vocals get a little bit of their own shine early in songs, and then the instrumentation builds and builds along with the vocals until they blend together to create something that is completely immersive, and overall each song, from song to song, is cohesive, and it creates an album that is fully immersive. Again, I cannot stress enough how much fun I had just really taking in the way that these sounds and the direction was meshing with itself. It creates something that is unique, different, and definitely unforgettable. So number 9, Algiers, self-titled. I hope to God I'm pronouncing that right, because I'm gonna look like a fucking idiot if I rave it that much and I'm pronouncing it wrong. Number 8, one of my favorite bands of the last 15 years or so, 10 Years, From Birth to Burial. 10 Years is one of the bigger underground alternative rock groups from the early and mid 2000s. Most comparably, I'd have to say their sounds like Tool. I own their first debut release, The Autumn Effect, which had a lot of great individual songs. And I think 10 Years has always done a good job of putting together individual songs that are both atmospheric, poetic, and just immersive. There's really a lot to be had when you look into what's being said, and the way that the singer vocalizes these lyrics is what really sticks with me, because I'm a huge vocal guy and I think he does a great job with how he stresses and how he can hit these notes. However, 10 Years has always not been a super consistent band. While they've had good singles throughout the years and their initial album was a really cohesive project, they've struggled with creating something that's been fresh ever since then. Albums like Minus the Machine and especially Feeding the Wolves really struggled to be a completely enjoyable experience through and through. While 10 Years still struggles to really reach new heights and push and experiment with their music heavily, I feel like they really created something here that as an overall project is their best work since their first debut album. Again, with 10 Years, you get a lot of atmosphere in their songs, and again, you get a lot of poetry in the lyrics, and that's all here. However, I feel like the album is really meant to be an overall album, maybe even a little bit of a concept album with the title and the way that it's structured. You see the last 3 tracks really kind of as the climax of the album, and the final stretch of the album is so melodically beautifully done that is one of the best stretches of 10 Years' work as an overall album, or as an overall stretch, I guess, that they've ever done. The 3 final tracks, I believe from Survivors ? To the last track, just killed it. This is one of the most amazing tracks I've heard from this genre in a long time. I also feel like they really take a step up in their instrumentation. They've always been good with pacing and writing, and it's still here today. But I feel like the instruments really kind of molded their own lane in this album and created something that was worth listening to other than what we're used to with 10 Years. The drumming is spectacular in a lot of times. Guitar riffs on most of these tracks are some of the most memorable that I've seen from 10 Years in a long time, and they definitely bring a lot to this project as well. Overall, I feel like, again, 10 Years just puts out one of their most cohesive projects. They're pushing themselves more than they have in a decade. There's a resurgence in songwriting, and there's an emphasis on instrumentation that we're not used to at 10 Years, and they really create a project that's almost a redemption for the band, and I'm glad that they did. So again, number 8, 10 Years, From Birth to Burial. Number 8, actor / observer, The Longer Now. This is pretty much your conventional post-hardcore album in every way. It's really similar to bands like Let Live, and I really like what they do here. While it's not super genre pushing, it's just really nicely executed. You see great instrumentation here from really aggressive tone-setting drum line, great guitar riffs like on tracks like It's Always the Weather and Glass Eye. The instrumentation just builds on top of nicely performed vocals that vary in both range and pacing to create tracks that are structured in a way that's really appealing to listen to. You hear this on the great passionate intro track that immediately hits you with super desperate lyrics and emotional vocals. And this intro track really sets the tone for the entire album. The album is super cohesive, building on top of itself to have, again, a kind of climax at the end of the album that really wraps it up all together very nicely. And again, Actor Observer just creates super clean, conventional, but well-executed post-hardcore tracks here that have great instrumentation, interesting vocals, and enjoyable just overall structure. They're intense and they're memorable. So again, number 7, Actor Observer, The Longer Now. Number 6, Earl Sweatshirt. I don't like shit. I don't go outside. This is a follow-up to his 2013 project Doris, and you see a lot of similarity. Earl has progressed himself as a rapper through this project, and he's really set down and create something that's more concentrated in both mood and topic. or a mood and theme anyway. And he puts together a project that has a lot of similar style to Doris, but it's definitely a different overall experience. It's a little bit more gritty in the production. It's a little bit more gloomy overall. And while it may not be as dark really in the lyrics, it's definitely more atmospheric in the mood that it's trying to present to you. Earl Sweatshirt is one of the best rappers, I think, in my opinion, that we have today, and you don't miss that here. He has great wordplay. He's improved his flow, which was one of my complaints with Doris. It was very kind of monotone. He stepped it up a little bit here on some tracks like DNA, where he ranges a little bit. He increases the pace. He increases the aggressiveness, and it's really interesting to hear him rap. He's one of the, just hands down, best rappers that is doing it right now. And that on itself helps make this project super enjoyable. Combine the great lyricism with some interesting, gloomy, tight instrumentals, and you create a bunch of tracks that are just super interesting to listen to, whether as an overall project or on their own. This is a super short album, but there's a lot to be had here in the direction that he's taken it. And so I think if you're an Earl fan, if you're a rap fan like I am, this is definitely an album that you have to listen to, and that's why it's on my top 10. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, do I like it better than Doris? I don't know. I feel like they're different albums, you know what I mean? But I think there's ways that he's improved himself here, and I think there's ways that he has. I feel like Doris had more individual tracks that really stood out better, maybe because of better hooks, or I prefer the instrumentals. I think he definitely increases his lyricism here, and obviously he increases his flow. So as a rapper, Earl's progressed himself. I'm just not sure if it holds up to the power that Doris was able to put together throughout however long it was. Nonetheless, though, this is definitely a great project from Earl. It's short, so even if one or two tracks here or there is a miss, I can't really complain too much because it's still kind of an overall project type of thing. And he does a good job, and I look forward to see what he does next. So, again, number 6, Earl Sweatshirts. I don't like shit. I don't go outside. Number 5, another rapper, Billy Woods. Today I wrote nothing. Billy Woods is a dark, gritty, and gloomy artist that has been doing this for a couple of years now. He put out projects like Dour Candy and History Will Absolve Me in years past, and I really like these projects' direction, and I really respect Billy Woods as a lyricist going into this project. However, I don't feel that overall it really caught my ear because of maybe a lack of flow, a lack of interesting beats. I respected him, but I just couldn't really get into the music. At times, it felt boring, and it felt a lot of his stuff was kind of a mood album. However, I think he really, really steps his game up here. Again, we still get that kind of atmosphere that he's used to bringing in, but he improves on multiple different fronts. First of all, he flows a lot better than I've heard on any of his projects, using multiple bar schemes that he executes a lot better than he did on projects like Dour Candy. Again, he's still being super topical here. There's a lot to read into his lyrics and his songs, and the mood that he puts together in this album is just really immersive. It's really, again, kind of a mood album, I think. However, I think because of the increase in his flow and his increase as an overall rapper, because of that, it stands out a little bit more. You can put this on almost at any time. Also, one of the reasons why I really like this better than his previous projects is because he hugely steps up the production. There's a lot of great sampling here all throughout the album. There's dense, varied, experimental beats that really stand out and even bang at times. Check out tracks like Woodhull, U-Boats, Scales, and Weeper. Dude, the beat on Weeper and the way that he wrote it, it was just nasty. And he gets nasty with some of these beats, and they really fit to create a vibe that really sticks with you. Overall, just really throughout the album, great production. Like I said, Billy Woods as a rapper has never been a bad thing. He's a super talented rapper, he's a super talented lyricist, and I think a super talented thinker. It's topical and it's thematic in the songs that he's putting out here, and there's a lot to read into. However, what made me kind of turn off in his previous projects, he improved, and it made me love this one. Overall, he creates a project that is cohesive, it's immersive, it's a huge step up, and it's just a great listen for hip-hop fans. Just on every level, man. He stepped up on every level, and I love this project. It's great. So there's not really anything else I can say about it. Number 5, Billy Woods. Today, I wrote nothing. We're getting to the final stretch here, boys. While I love the rest of those albums on the list so far, these last 4 albums really separated themselves for me as takeaways. I'm looking forward to owning all of them and adding to my collection because these records are great, and I'll be hugely surprised if these last 4 aren't on my final top 10 year list. So, starting with number 4, Hopalong's Painted Shut. Hopalong is a real interesting band. They're indie rock in a lot of their style, but there's different styles being influenced here that separate themselves from the genre. Wiki actually lists them as grunge folk, which sounds really interesting when you first see it, but I think it kind of makes sense in the way that their music is. It's indie rock, but it has a little bit more passion to it. Both from the vocals, the way that the singer vocalizes, it's a little bit more raspy, and it's a little bit more emotional than I think you see in a lot of in most of the genre here. A lot of the genre, you get your maybe softer and delicate and at times sweet or just melodic lyrics, and there's definitely those here. The vocalist does a great job at hitting those notes. She has great pitch, but she's also able to change it, and she has huge range. She's able to lower it down into even a little bit more kind of punk and just like Wiki said, grunge influenced vocals at times, and it's really interesting to listen to because she can excel at doing both, and the way that she changes it, it's super cohesive and it's done really nicely. She uses her great vocals to sing out some really interesting lyrics. A lot of the songs that you see here, it feels like she's telling a story. They're narratives almost that are being written and sung to us on tracks such as like Horseshoe Crabs, The Knock, Texas Funeral, and a lot more. While they're not all super direct, there's a lot of substance here, and there's a lot of personality within the lyrics. The instrumentation is also very complimentary, ranging in experimentation and dabbling in a foray of subgenres. At times, the guitars and drums are very minimalist and play off her great vocals and give them their shine. And at times, you see them take on a more aggressive, tone-setting pace. Also, the production is a lot more dense than you might think. Listening closely, you can hear at times small uses of pianos and even wind instruments. So, while the instrumentation doesn't blow me away, it helps blend cohesively with the vocals to create something that is super enjoyable, well executed, and a unique project given what you usually see from the genre. Number 3, The Staves If I Was. This is a contemporary folk, more of an alternative indie project from a trio of sisters out of the UK who obviously have a lot of experience singing along with each other, and they know how to perfectly and beautifully harmonize and use their vocals as one of the mainstays of this project. It is really the emphasis both in the direction of the album and in the mixing. You see it placed highly in the mixing over the album's instrumentation. The lyrics also help show off these really delicate, poetically written lyrics that are super interesting to read, and at times can be super personal and emotional in the way that, while they're sometimes a bit broad, there's a lot to be had there if you read into it. At times, too, they layer the vocals over each other, and it really sounds amazing. Again, the vocal work that's done here is beautiful, and it really is one of the things that immediately sticks out to when you listen to this project. However, let's not take anything away from the production that's put behind the vocalization here. It's dense and it's layered. It features a lot of different instruments from trumpets to drums, violins, pianos, and both even acoustic and electric guitars on songs like Black and White. These songs are crafted in a way that are at times sweet and catchy, and at times melodic and emotional. Overall, this album just has really unique song structure and makes every single track memorable. Combine pretty dense and interesting production with absolutely beautiful vocals, and you get an overall experience that makes you want to listen to it again right after you finish it. So, again, my number 3, The Staves If I Was. Number 2, Natalie Prass's self-titled debut. I absolutely love this project. It kind of was a surprise when I first put it on because, one, I had no idea what to expect, and two, the sound that's on this album is something that I haven't heard in a very long time. When I first listened to it, it almost kind of reminded me, and this doesn't really have a base to this, but it kind of reminded me of like if I was watching a 1970s Disney movie with like a romantic influence. It's weird, but it's awesome. It's a sound that we've all heard before, but it's executed so great that it feels fresh. And the fact that she's able to do that really speaks to her immense level of talent here. First of all, Natalie Prass is an absolutely amazing vocalist. Natalie Prass knows what she's good at, and she knows what the album requires, and she doesn't try to do anything more than that. She comes across with really soft, delicate, sweet vocals that are at times very catchy and at times very melodic. Again, that's really the first thing that's going to catch your ear. The way that she's able to just let it kind of sweetly flow into your ears and kind of touch your heart and just rip out of your fucking soul. That's the first thing that's going to hit you. But there's a lot more to this album. First of all, Natalie Prass shows an immense level of talent as a songwriter. Whether it be the first couple of opening tracks here, which are really great to listen to a track like Christy, which leaves a lot of realm for interpretation in my opinion. When I first listened to the track, obviously there's a surface level interpretation where she's talking about this man that she's in love with who loves another woman, and there's kind of a twinge of jealousy there. However, when I listened to it, the way that I interpreted it was that Christy was a metaphor for crystal meth, with Christy being short for crystal, and then crystal, obviously crystal meth, and she's actually talking about her man struggling with a drug addiction and how her emotions are when the man that she loves is doing such self-damage. I think the fact that that's even open to interpretation, that there's a chance that that's there, is really great. Whether or not I'm wrong or right, the fact that there's interpretation to her lyrics means there's a lot to be read into and there's a lot to experience. So when you can add your own image and your own opinion to a song, you connect to that song and it connects back to you. And so I think that is really great. Also, the production behind this album is absolutely fantastic. It's super dense and layered, but it's also very smooth and clean in the way that it's just put together. There's a lot of different instruments here that all build together to create the mood and the vibe that she's giving off with the music. Whether it be pianos, flutes, trombones, drums, acoustic guitars. It's almost feel like it's a full orchestra. It's not, but the point is she's creating something that's very fulfilling and immersive instrumentals. It's really, overall, this is a complete project. You combine the great instrumental side with great vocals, with super interesting and enjoyable lyrics and song structure, and it creates an album that just really sticks in your mind for being so well executed. Again, the fact that this is a sound that you immediately notice that you've heard before, but it still comes across as fresh, is absolutely spectacular. Natalie Prass, self-titled debut, number 2. Finally, guys, number 1. If you guys know me very well, you might have been able to guess this, but it is Kendrick Lamar's To Pimp a Butterfly. Kendrick Lamar, West Coast rapper, put out one of my favorite hip-hop albums, probably of all time, in 2012's Good Kid, Mad City, is back, and he puts out an album right here that comes at a time where there's a lot of social problems that are worth talking about in America. And he definitely takes advantage. He uses his music here as a medium to get across a message. This album is super ambitious, it's thematic, it's conceptual, and it's topical. Kendrick Lamar both evaluates himself, the world around him, and this album creates kind of a conclusion about human nature and then an action plan that's kind of implied throughout the album. The fact that he was willing to take the risk and use this album as a statement to create about issues that he sees in the world around us takes balls. This is one of the most ambitious hip-hop albums that have come out in mainstream in the last 15 years. Point blank period, no way around it. Even if you aren't a Kendrick Lamar fan, you have to listen. Sonically, Kendrick Lamar also pushes himself in a whole new direction here as well. While 2012's Good Kid, Mad City was more of a conventional hip-hop album in terms of the beats and production, this one takes on a much heavier funk and jazz influence. And I think it really fits the way that he was trying to push the album and the themes that are in it. It really helps create this vibe that at times is, it has been described as pro-black, but is also just kind of a little bit more radical, I guess, and really it inspires change. It fits the tone that the lyrics and the overall album is trying to give off. While I didn't enjoy this album as much as I did Good Kid, Mad City as a listening experience, I'd have to say I believe this album is much more memorable and is going to stick with me for a long, long time. It is, again, it is super ambitious, it is super cohesive, and it's creating, the entire album is building up within itself to give off these messages that once you get, it clicks and you can't forget it. You can't forget the work that is being done here through Kendrick Lamar's music. So I think because of that, because of the direction that this was taken, Kendrick's continued prowess as an MC, some pretty good production throughout most of the album, this all creates a really, really inspired, memorable project. Once again, I think, again, it's just going to stick with me for a very long time. So that's why K. King Kunta, Kendrick Lamar is my number one with his junior album, To Pimp a Butterfly. Alright guys, thanks for watching. If you stay tuned all the way up to this point, go ahead and leave a like down on the bottom if you liked it. If you have any feedback for what I may improve or any ideas for other series on the channel that you'd like to see, go ahead and leave that down in the description box as well, or the comment section as well. I'd be very interested in seeing what you guys have to say, and I am here to create entertaining content for you, so thus I have to know what entertains you. So please leave all feedback that you feel like. As always, you guys, it's your boy Swag Magician, aka The Rising Gamer, aka The Brown Taylor Swift. Stay cool, keep fresh. If I have music, what else do I really need? Peace.